crime, murder, violence. Where does it all start? What exactly drives someone to do such horrible things? Well, let's find out. This is the shocking story of one of the most notorious criminals the world has ever seen. It is the very partially true story of my cat, Pablo. What started with refusing to shit in the litter box turned into being wanted in more than 100 countries. What led this cat into such a path of destruction and aggression? For that, I must take you back to where it all started. I remember it like it was 6 years ago. It was a warm summer afternoon and my life was about to change forever. My parents and I were visiting some friends on their farm and there he was, little Pablo. He walked right up to us with a friendly smile and I have to say, it was love at first meow. He was still so young and innocent back then. Didn't look like he could hurt a fly. At first he was a bit silent and shy, not really adding much to the conversation. Because he's a cat. Cats don't talk. Anyway, he told us he was looking for a place to settle in the city, so we decided to take him in and adopt him. And in those first years, we lived our lives to the fullest. Pablo did his part in the house, inspecting boxes and fertilizing the garden. He was so happy and grateful for us taking him in. Of course, he was trying to find success as well, doing everything possible to kick off his professional tail model career. At one point, he did so many side jobs I couldn't even count them anymore. I mean, he was a chef, a gardener, a plumber, police officer, lawyer. At one point, he even started giving yoga lessons in our garden. It was crazy. It was just so amazing to see how someone from such humble beginnings could do so much. He was often busy and tired, but he loved every part of it. I remember how he'd fall asleep right next to me after our long conversations, and I really cherished those moments of our friendship. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. A silent gust of wind. Something moving around in the grass. A neighbor yelling for something or someone they lost. These were the sounds of our garden on that day. As I went outside to find out what was happening, I approached the grass, and there I saw it. A body, beautifully golden and slimy, but mauled, dismembered. It was Pablo's first victim. It was now exactly a year since the accident. Pablo lost his tail, his pride. Now, all that was left of it was a little stub. To be honest, that past year hadn't been exactly good for Pablo. The big names, Victoria's Secret, Chanel, Dior, Prada, they all let him go. Dropped him without a second thought for some orange cat. And that really hurt Pablo. In a way, when that spotlight dimmed, it felt like that light within Pablo turned off as well. He started drinking and the bottle became his best friend. Day after day, drink after drink, we'd see him out there, plastered drunk in the garden, mostly in the daylight hours, lost in yet another binge. Now up until that point, he was only really hurting himself. But honestly, that soon changed because we started noticing the smell of catnip wafting from the neighbor's garden. Turns out, Pablo had found himself a new crowd. In that backyard he was hanging around so much, there was a pond, which was known for the gang of criminal fish that lived there. And it was there that he met their leader, Billy. Las Vegas, the city of sins, gambling, and rampant capitalism. Or as criminals like Pablo and Billy's gang, the hillbillies would call it, heaven on earth. Now, Billy wasn't just any gangster. Although he was charismatic, he was a nasty fish with a somewhat splashy temper. Combine this with Pablo's eagerness to work and his connections from the modeling job, and you've got the recipe to take over the world. In the beginning, they mostly stuck to lower radar crimes like intimidation, loan sharking, and illegal liquor trade, but above all, gambling. By the time anyone noticed, Pablo and the hillbillies owned most of the casinos and hotels in Las Vegas, and they were swimming in cash. Nothing seemed to be able to stop them, until Pablo and Billy started falling out. You see, Pablo felt he didn't get enough recognition for making the gang so successful, and he felt even more betrayed when Billy wanted to tap into the booming drugs market, which was fueled by the counterculture and hippie movement of the time, despite their vow to never deal drugs. So Pablo left, taking about half of the gang with him. Billy was of course furious and violence started to unfold. There were street fights, shootings, innocent victims. Pablo knew this had to stop. It would either be him or Billy. So on insert date here, 19 whatever, Billy the gangster was mysteriously found dead in his backyard. While there was no evidence, it was clear that Pablo had made his move, and the new age of his criminal career had begun.
He's number one on the FBI's most wanted list.
He successfully hit more than a dozen banks in the past 4 years.
In a series of robberies in Manhattan.
The NYPD says the gang is behind a string of store thefts, targeting high-end items, making its way to the United States and other countries.
In total, investigators say the suspects made off with almost $20,000 in cash and merchandise.
Approximately $200,000 worth of jewelry and $3,000 in cash.
He was the most prolific bank robber.
He was kind of legendary in terms of bank robbery. He was a smart bank robber. He became our number one priority.
No one was injured.
Not hurting anybody. No shots were fired.
No one has been physically injured in any of these robberies. Right now, the NYPD is working along with the FBI on this case. A reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest.
If you think you know him, make that phone call. If you think you see him, make that phone call. That's how these things get solved.
There may have been some rooting for him, and people talk about Robin Hood.
Sneaking the bank robber kind of goes back to the Robin Hood thing. You steal from the rich, you give to the poor. Duh, how noble is that?
Everyone should see this picture. Everyone, every bank, every bus station, every train manager should have his picture. We need to catch him.
The cat-faced bank robber, Robin Hood. Pablo was all over the news. He was now wanted in more than 100 countries. After dealing with Billy, Pablo started thinking about how his life turned out. His life always seemed to revolve around reputation and money. He realized the senselessness of it all, so he started to steal from the rich and give to the poor. But even this didn't fulfill him. One day, when he was back on the streets handing stacks of money to homeless people, a mysterious man drew his attention. When he walked up to him, the homeless man looked him straight in the eyes, and he told Pablo about a dream he had after reading about him in the newspaper. In the dream, he was told that if he ever met Pablo, he would need to pass on an important message. So he looked at Pablo again, and then he said 4 words. Go to India. When Pablo arrived in India, he was full of purpose. The homeless man he met had left a huge impact on him, although it turns out from later sources the guy was just insanely high on drugs, but that doesn't matter. He was here in India and he was ready to change. He read about a certain guru who was teaching a deep meditation method that would bring you to a higher state of consciousness and connect you to your true self. And so Pablo set out to meet this guru. It took ages to find him, but once they got into the same room, the man was impressed with Pablo's story and he invited him into his private meditation ashram. In the ashram, he met a lot of different people, including a couple of really friendly British guys that were really into music. They spent days making music together, creating countless songs, and actually, some of them became quite popular. More importantly though, he felt safe and he knew he could be honest about his past. Days, weeks, months went by and Pablo slowly started to make sense of life. But he still wasn't quite there. One day, he was sitting by the river talking to his teacher, who said to him, "You have made a lot of progress, my feline friend, but what is it you truly seek?" Pablo replied, "I don't even know anymore. I've done everything. I built an empire and lost it. I've fought, killed, but I've given back. Being here, I really feel like I'm finding myself, but it feels like I'm chasing something I'll never catch." The yogi said, "Perhaps you are chasing the wrong thing. Maybe it is not about finding yourself, but about who you were all along. Who are you, truly?" Pablo looked down, thinking silently for a moment. Flashbacks played. Him as a kitten on a farm, his adoption, my parents, my brothers, me, his family. For so long, I was Pablo the cat who clawed his way to the top. But deep down, I'm just a simple farm cat. I worked hard, I dreamed big, and I went all in, and I had bad luck. And in feeling sorry for myself, I lost sight of what really mattered. That's it. That's who I am. The yogi smiled and patted Pablo on the back. With a chuckle, he said, "Then perhaps it is time to go home."